Some time ago, I started a challenge where I tried to beat Plants vs. Zombies 2 with only flowers, and that did really well. And because y'all enjoyed the series so much, I'm going to be doing it once again in another mod. So today, I'm going to see if you can beat Plants vs. Zombies 2 Altverz with only flowers. And for those who aren't aware, Altverz is a mod that makes the game more like the first one, bringing the 25 sun meta back, and with each world being split into 2 sets of 10 levels. And before we begin this, I would recommend you watch the first series before watching this one, so you have some information of what's going to be going on here. And without further ado, let's once again name this save file and begin the challenge once again. Well, past me beats the tutorial levels, let's go over the rules. Starting off, as the name of the challenge suggests, I'm only allowed to use flowers, and for what counts as a flower is the following conditions you can see right now. Secondly, any pre-planted plants in the lawn are allowed to stay because I didn't plant them, so therefore, they are not mine. And lastly, locked and loaded, conveyor belt, and planar defense levels are not counted for this challenge, because they either aren't interesting or don't allow me to pick my plants. And one last thing I want to note is that I won't be going full in-depth for the reintroductions of plants and zombies that were in the last challenge unless they have something changed about them, because I want to save us all some time and not have to go over all that. And with all that out of the way, past me is the tutorial levels, and let's truly begin this challenge and move on to the ancient Egypt.
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
What's your offer?
Welcome to the sandy lands of ancient Egypt. Days 1 through 3 have nothing going on in them because we don't have Boomerang yet, so we can't really do anything besides play the levels normally. And besides getting introduced to the Raw, Camel, and Tomb Raiser zombies, respectively, nothing else really happens in them, so let's just skip them and move on. Day 4 finally gives us Boomerang, and, they kinda suck. Starting off, they now cost 200 sun, which in a 25 sun minute is kind of an issue. And to make things worse, they only deal 10 damage per hit, maximizing at 20 per Boomerang, which, is not that good. Now, they can deal with the basics just fine, but it takes 2 of them to manage a Conehead. Then don't even get me started on anything above them. This level is still easy, but Boomerang's low damage will be a problem later on, so let's just continue. Day 5 is just a gimmick level, so skip. Day 6 introduces the Torch Zombie, but more importantly is a bit of an issue, causing the first loss of this challenge due to, once again, Boomerang's inability to deal with anything tankier than a Conehead. And after a few more losses, I was able to beat the level thanks to some RNG on the starting zombie spawns, and just spamming sunflowers to have more sun production, and was able to beat the level. Day 7 introduces a brand new flower to the team, Iceberg Lettuce, and as pointed out by a commenter, they are related to daisies, which allows me to use them. And they are a godsend for this challenge, allowing me to start out the starting waves so I can produce more sun for the later ones. And other than that, this level didn't prove much of a challenge, so let's continue on. Day 8 reintroduces the Pharaoh Zombie, who isn't much of an issue thanks to Iceberg Lettuce allowing me to just stall them out until they lose their armor, and allowing me to beat the level. Day 9 introduces the Necromancy gimmick, which, while normally a Dark Ages gimmick, has been brought over to this world, which makes sense for considering the graveyard's worth of tombstones. Tombstones? Okay. Graveyard's worth of tombstones that spawn in this world. But thanks to Boomerang's Pierce, this level is easy, so let's continue on. Day 10 is just a conveyor belt level, so once again, skip. While this would normally be day 11, this is actually the start of the extreme levels, which I'll be referring to as day number X levels. So day 1X reintroduces the objectives gimmick, starting off with the sun objective. And even with the 25 sun meta, these will always be on a walk in the park, so let's continue on. Oh, and ignore the ice in the corner. Day 2X reintroduces the Rot, which blocks parts of the lawn I can plant on. But even with this grand return of a loved gimmick, This level was easy, so let's move on. Day 3X is a locked and loaded level, so skip. Day 4X is a conveyor belt level, so once again, skip. Day 5X is also a conveyor belt level, so once again, skip. Day 6X reintroduces the sun costing objective. But, more importantly, this level introduces the first new zombie of this mod, the Tomb Feast zombie, who only spawns from the Tomb Feast ambush and only from graves. And their whole gimmick is spawning more graves at a faster rate, but other than that, they're the same as a Tomb Raiser. And this level was still easy, so let's continue on. Day 7X brings us the return of Twin Sunflower, which, was quite nice, because the more flowers the better. But they also introduced a new gimmick, which is tombstones constantly spawning throughout the level. But with enough bloomerangs, the graves broke faster than they ever could spawn, making this level easy. Day 8X reintroduces the protecting the endangered plants objective, having me protect these two bok choys. And this level took me a couple of tries to beat, but that was less because of the zombies eating the bok choy and more because bloomerangs couldn't protect themselves to save their lives. But other than that, this level was easy. Day 9X doesn't allow me to bring Sunflower. Wonder why this... Oh. So, yeah. This level has about 800 sun fall from the sky every once in a while. And I think you can get this level was pretty easy, so let's continue on. Day 10X actually isn't the zombie boss fight. It's actually a proper final level, featuring 3 flags of every zombie that was featured within the world. And while it was easy, thanks to the massive bloomerang span, and using iceberg lettuce to stall out the gargantuars, it was still a really cool level with a banger of a remix playing as well. But with the last zombies out of the way, I have beaten ancient Egypt and can move on to the Pirate Seas. Bam, bam.
The entire Royal Navy is out looking for me. Do you really think that there is even the slightest chance that they won't see it?
But why is the rum gone?
Welcome to the swashbuckled land of the Pirate Seas. Day 1 is pretty easy as it tends to be. I get reintroduced into the world's main gimmick of empty rows, swashbuckler zombies, and beat the level with no trouble, so let's continue on. Day 2 reintroduces the seagull zombie, and they're kind of annoying. A common trend we will see with the bird-based zombies in this game. Because due to their faster speed, a single bloomerang can just barely deal with them before getting eaten. But besides that, this level was easy, so let's move on. Day 3 reintroduces the captain zombie, and their parents are a pain to deal with, because bloomerang just lacks the damage to deal with them before they can take a plant away into the plant heaven in the sky. But not many respond to the level, so it was another easy win, and we can continue on. Day 4 introduces a new zombie, the Pelican Carrier zombie, who carries a sack with them, dropping it when they run into a plant, and that sack carries a captain imp who has more health than a cone head. But they can't walk, so they'll just block a space for me to plant on until I kill them. This level wasn't that hard, mainly because all but one lane was a water lane. Meaning I can just plant a few bloomerangs in the plank row and have them deal with everything that can't fly, which allowed me to beat the level. Day 5 is just a coconut cannon minigame level, so skip. Day 6 reintroduces the barrel roller zombie, back at it again to put barrels all over my lawn, which I didn't ask for still. But other than that, this level was another easy one, so let's move on. Day 7 shows the zombies unlock the power of teleporting barrels. And these barrels work the same as barrel roller zombies barrels, carrying 2 imps of them.
Good grief, he's naked!
That will jump out as soon as the barrel is destroyed. But they only have half the health and half the damage as normal imps because of the teleporting. But this level was still easy, so let's move on. Day 8 features no plank lanes and just has flying zombies and the teleporting barrels. But this level was still quite easy, however, thanks to Bloomerang's piercing. So, let's move on. Day 9 features unkept dirt. Where's my rod? Why isn't it here? No, I want to use the The funny rot joke, no. Whatever. But with the way the unkept dirt is set up, it's clear that they wanted to use the best plant that is designed for this kind of setup. Bloomerang! And thanks to them being the clearly best choice here, the level was beaten. Day 10 is a conveyor level, so skip. Day 1X has me not plant for the first 60 seconds, and was quite easily beaten by just waiting at the start of the level, not playing anything, even if it gave me less sun later on. But the rest of the level was a smooth sailing, and I was able to beat the level. Oh, and Imcan is here as well. Still waiting to be part of that 8 o'clock. Someone will get that reference. Day 2X is a plan your defense level, so skip. Day 3X was the first level to prove a real challenge here, and while it was only just the objective don't let the zombies walk over the flowers, it was much harder than it should have been, due to the fact that my attacks are just too expensive. And while I did get Snapdragon as well in a previous level, they're kind of mediocre compared to the last challenge, and because of the fact that they now cost 200 sun just like Bloomerang, making it a hard choice of who I would want to plant when I have enough sun. With Bloomerang tending to be the better option due to their range. And after many failed attempts, it looked like this level, there was no way of me being able to beat it. And I needed a plant that was both cheap and could kill zombies quickly enough for me. And I knew just a plant, but it would require me to do something sacrilegious in the art of PvZ challenges. Taking a detour! So, let's go do that. Welcome back to the Wild West. Let's make this quick. Day 1 reintroduces the Prospector zombie, who will be a problem, but that's for me in the future to worry about. And the level is easy, so let's move on. Day 2 reintroduces the Poncho zombie, who now always has their armor, and is now fully immune to being chilled and frozen, which makes them a good combo of Prospector zombies, but this level is still easy, so let's continue. Day 3 reintroduces the Pianist zombie. Back at it again, destroying entire districts and making basic zombies move around the lawn. Level was still easy though, and now that I've gotten what I came here for, let's return to the Pirate Seas. Cue the Tenna transition! Now that we're back to Pirate Seas, I can now properly introduce my next new flower, Electricity, who's a cheap instant plant that, when eaten, will insta-kill the one that eats them, and chains electric attacks to other zombies, damaging them. And thanks to this new plant, I was able to beat the level my first try, and it allowed me to finally properly progress the challenge, so let's continue on. Day 4X has me protect Dave's nuts, and while I did lose my first attempt because of the swashbuckler zombies and captains, on my next try I made sure to protect Dave's nuts with more efficiency, thanks to Snapdragon killing zombies close to the nuts quickly, and even with a Garg at the end wanting to crush the nuts, I just had to stall them out for long enough until they died and was able to beat the level. Day 5X is another coconut cannon minigame level, so skip. Day 6X was just another level that was a pain to do. And now it seems simple enough from the front, of just making sure I don't lose more than 8 plants. It becomes absolute hell to do thanks to the new ambush introduced, the Parrot Trouser, which spawns a bunch of new parrots which have the exact same amount of health as the normal ones but steal plants twice as fast. And there's no way that Bloomerang could kill them quick enough. So I'd tend to lose 2 plants each time it happened and then lose. And I went at this level for a while, but eventually I ran out of steam and had to call it there for the stream I was doing that day and didn't beat level. But I didn't want to give up there. So I did a bit of grinding on a new plant to help me win, Blooming Heart, which is a cheaper attacker compared to Bloomerang, and can actually deal more damage, meaning I could get them down faster in order to kill zombies for me in the early game. But even with this new plant, I was only able to get closer to beating the level and not beat it itself. So I caved in and used Walnut in order to protect my plants for a longer time. And while I might have been able to beat the level with enough trial and error, I don't have the willpower to do stuff like that, so with this impossible level out of the way, let's continue on. Day 7X is a locked low level, so skip. Day 8X is a conveyor belt level, so once again, skip. Day 9X is a unique gimmick to it, throwing the non-flying zombies over the empty lanes, which is pretty cool and it adds more stress to those lanes than normal they would be, which is pretty cool. The level is still not a challenge thanks to both Blooming Heart and Bloomerang, so let's continue on. Day 10X is the big final level, with planks in heavy lanes and loving to spam swashbucklers at me. Along with imp carriers as being quite a problem here, because it would make the Blooming Heart target them instead of literally anything else behind them. And after a few failed attempts, a chatter on my stream gave me a great idea. Stop bringing Twin Sunflower and swap them out with Snapdragon. And after doing that, I was able to beat the level and I can properly continue on to the Wild West. And boosh. Welcome back to the Wild West, y'all. Day 4 introduces a new zombie, the Dust Devil zombie, which throws dynamite that can't be put out by ice attacks, meaning I'll have to damage it before it explodes, and if it does, it will deal damage to my plants in a 3x3 radius. And while they're very weak, not taking them out quick enough will have dire consequences for my plants and its defense. But this level was still easy, so let's continue on. Day 5 is the minecart minigame level, so skip. Day 6 reintroduces the Chicken Wrangler zombie and their army of chickens. And this level was very easy thanks to Snapdragon taking out the chickens with no problem at all. So let's move on. Day 7 introduces the Short Fuse Prospectors, who jump almost immediately, but at the cost of them only dealing half the damage compared to the normal ones. And this level was beaten without much issue thanks to Blooming Heart and Bloomerang being quite a good combo. But the Short Fuse Prospectors will be proven to be a much bigger threat later on. But for now, let's move on. Day 8 is when I start using a new flower, Lightning Reed, who is here because of the fact to use Cattail in the last challenge and their Osa Reed, so it makes sense to allow myself to use Lightning Reed here. And while their damage may be weak, their chaining ability can help chip away at zombies and take out ones that are at lower health. And this level also reintroduces the Bull Rider Ms, but other than that, this level is easy, so let's continue on. Day 9 covers the entire lawn with minecarts, with 3 being in each row and spawning more later in the level. And thanks to both Bloomerang and Lightning Reed, this interesting level was beaten, so we can continue on. Day 10 is a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 1X, wait, why are you here? So, yeah. This level introduces the idea of zombies from past worlds showing up in the current one, which is a cool idea that adds more interest to levels without having to add new zombies. And while this level also had me produce 3,700 sun, it was still an easy one, so let's continue on. Day 2X is a conveyor belt level, so skip. Day 3X introduces a new ambush, the Zombie Shuffle, which makes the zombies stronger. And while this might have been a problem, and only being let to lose 10 plants, but thankfully this level wasn't too hard, so I can continue on without too much issue. Day 4X has me make sure that the zombies don't walk over the flowers. And so to counter this, I planted a sunflower. And then another one. And then another one. And then so many more sunflowers that the zombies just gave up and I beat the level, allowing me to continue on. Day 5X was another minecart minigame level, so skip. Day 6X brings back the Rot, blocking the top and bottom rows so that only the minecarts can allow my plants to attack there. And I struggled a bit with this level. My only 2 remaining plants at the end being a Snapdragon and electricity. But I won nonetheless, so let's move on. While Day 7X is just a planar defense level, it does have the unique gimmick of me having to survive for a certain amount of time, with that time being 4.5 minutes. But it's still planning your defense level nonetheless, so let's continue on. Day 8X has me protect 2 pea shooters and a torchwood, both being on minecarts. And they were actually quite useful, helping me take out zombies in the early game and in the late game a bit, so I can set up my plants better, have a better defense. And this level also wasn't too hard either, so let's move on. Day 9X is just a lock and load level, so skip. Day 10X is once again the big final level. And it was once again quite hard. Mainly because of both versions of the Prospector zombies taking out all my attackers and making me lose. And I needed a plant who could either kill them before they jump, or can kill them after they jump. And I have just a plant for it, Dandelion, who has had quite a rework, now costing 450 sun, but now dealing 60 damage and having a 3x3 area of damage with their attacks. And thanks to them, I was able to finish off the Wild West and can now continue on to the far future. All it took was Dandelion. Phew!